Although Alexei finished his studies at university and obtained a degree in accounting, he decided to return to the village where he was born. He restored the wooden house left by his father, who had died years ago, and began to farm the land and raise livestock. The man inherited some agricultural equipment from his father and found that the tractor left by his father was still in good condition. So, he moves around the village and plows the land. He also pulls the trailer when he needs to transport goods and the crops he harvests from the land. Alexei was a very energetic and hardworking man, and when he came home, he slept early, and on rest days, he would take his wife and children and go for a walk in the city near the village. They went to the cinema, to the aqua park, and at the end of the day, came home. Over time, Alexei's children got married and left to live in the city while he and his wife stayed together in the small village. Everyone was envious of the man for his beautiful wife, who still maintained her strength and grace, even though she was over 50 years old. Alexei loves his wife Marina very much and is always eager to come home. The couple have been together for 30 years, and they've never quarreled or been angry. They're both calm and love each other very much. Alexei and Marina's son come to visit them every holiday and brings his wife and eldest son while he leaves his youngest son in the nursery. The grandfather loves his grandson very much. The boy is smart and loves to walk with his grandfather in the forest and help him when he feeds the livestock and serves the land. That's why Alexei is delighted when he knows that his grandson is coming to visit him. On summer vacation, Alexei's son, wife, and son arrived. He stayed home for a week. Then he and his wife left because they were tied to work, leaving little Nikita with his grandfather and grandmother to stay. The grandfather refused to take his grandson to the field that he plows with tractors because the temperature is high, and this may harm him. He leaves him at home with Marina, and when he comes back in the evening, he buys sweets or a gift, and he sits at home and they play together. The grandfather, though tired from work, sometimes yields to his grandson's requests and takes him on a tour to the woods near his home. There, they walk among the trees and enjoy the beautiful nature and the sounds of birds resounding in the forest. One day, Alexei was plowing a plot of land with a tractor, and a small fox lying in front of the tractor surprised him. Fortunately, he did not run over him, so he stopped the vehicle and got off immediately to check on the little fox. He noticed that he was in a miserable condition and starving because he had lost his mother and was left alone without food. Alexei had no food, so he carried the little fox in his hands and took the poor animal to his house, put in the garage, brought food and water, left it there without telling his wife and grandson, then went back to work. In the evening, the man was checking on the little fox and found that he had eaten all the food he had left and drank the water, and he remained lying in his place. Alexei thought of giving the little fox to his grandson as a gift, but he was terrified that the fierce animal would harm Nikita, so he decided to test his behavior and see if he was peaceful or aggressive. 2 days later, Alexei noticed that the little animal was extremely peaceful. It was cheerful, jumping and interacting with the man as soon as the latter opened the garage door. That's why the grandfather carried the little fox and gave it to his grandson to take care of him, and advised him to treat him kindly and defeat him. Marina was initially afraid of the fox and was watching her grandson, but with time, she realized that the animal was good and calm. So, she began to love him and began to approach him and caress him. The little fox still lived in Alexei's house, and everyone in the house became attached to and loved him. The man returned the small animal to the forest after regaining its strength and activity, but he did not do so for 2 reasons. The first is that the fox is small and will not be able to hunt. On the contrary, he may become prey to predatory animals because he noticed that his grandson became very attracted to the fox and didn't separate from him. He became his best friend and spent most of his time playing with him in the yard. Alexei was thrilled when he saw his grandson happy, so he had to keep the fox until the summer holidays were over and Nikita left. As the weeks went by, the fox started to get bigger and came out to roam around the house. The active fox used to catch mice and eat them, so he no longer needed much food. He has become a hunter. Nikita was watching the fox on hunting trips and watching him chase and catch mice, which was interesting because he had never before, in his eyes, seen an animal hunting its prey. When the time for Nikita's departure approached, the latter asked his grandfather to allow him to take the fox. But Alexei refused and told him that the animal had a family waiting for him, so he had to come back. Then he told him that he could come every holiday because the fox would not go away and would stay in the nearby woods. When Nikita got into the car, the fox approached and followed the vehicle until it moved away, which made everyone affected by that scene. Alexei and Marina continued to take care of the little fox until he went to the forest and spent a long time there. The animal came to visit them at first, but then, as the months went on, it stopped coming because it probably bred. About a year later, Nikita returned with his father and younger brother Sasha to visit his grandfather in the village. The boy immediately started looking for his friend, the fox, around the house when his grandfather approached him and told him that the animal was no longer there. He left for the forest and started living there with his friends. Then, the little boy sighed and asked his grandfather to take him to visit his friend, the fox, because he missed him so much. The grandfather took his grandson on several tours to search for the fox, but they did not find him. Then Alexei asked his grandson to forget about him because he was no longer around. Nikita no longer remembers the fox and realizes that the animal lives in his world with his family and friends. Alexei was preparing the ceiling while Marina was in the kitchen preparing food, and, at the same time, watching her grandchildren playing in the yard. Moments later, the grandmother heard her eldest grandson screaming. Then she looked out the window and saw a large poisonous snake approaching her grandson. She ran out and tried to get the snake away from Nikita, but the latter attacked her and forced her to turn back. Then, the woman went running towards her husband to ask for help. When Marina told her husband what had happened with their grandson, Alexei came down from the roof with a hammer in his hand and came running with his wife to save his grandson. There, he found the little boy playing with the fox who lived in his house, while the snake was dead and lying on the ground. The couple approached their grandson to check on him and found out that he was in good condition. The fox intervened at the last moment and prevented the snake from biting him and killing it immediately. Then, he hugged him and kept looking at the brave animal that saved their grandson's life in his way. The fox stayed playing with Nikita and his brother for about an hour, then left, disappeared into the forest, and no longer returned. As for Alexei and Marina, they became keen to watch their grandchildren and prevent them from playing in places where there is thick grass. Although they realize that someone protects them and is ready to risk his life for the sake of the family that saved his life and took care of him until he grew up and became strong. What an incredible story! Animals never forget who gave them a helping hand. Have you ever helped an animal in need? Share your story in the comments below. You never know, it might inspire other people to do the same.